Right, so welcome to a new one on this channel. In this occasion, it's the Velocity MIDI device from Ableton. Now, everything is in tiny chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. And if you like what I do, remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can. Just check the links at the description. Right, so right here we have the MIDI Velocity device. And right here we have just a simple sound. So if I play this, it's going to sound like this. Now, the main job of this one, of the Velocity device, is to alter the velocity of the notes that we have right here, this velocity, when we play the MIDI or when we play live. So it has some confusing parts and some very easy parts. So let's start easy. We are going to be talking about the fixed mode first. So whenever you go to fixed, everything else, notice that it's almost grayed out. Now, almost everything else, you get random. We can talk about this later, and you get an out high. So on fixed mode, pretty much what you're saying is that whatever that you do right here in terms of MIDI, you want to adjust the velocity to this value, to whatever value. So if I go right here and just make everything like 127, everything is going to be super high. Now, but since this is deciding at the end how the MIDI is going to come out, maybe I'm going to be doing 58 for all the different notes. Right, so this is what we do with the fixed, and this is what the out high is going to do on this mode. The behavior of the out high and the out low will change just a little bit. It depends on the mode we are working. Now, on the fixed one, if we say that we want the velocity to be 85 and we record this, we can see that the velocity for everything is going to be 85. So I'm going to go there, and we can see that the velocity is 85. If you take a look at the bottom right here at the bottom, if I select the note, it's going to be 85 and then 85 all over the place. So that's what the fixed mode is going to do. Now, the other modes are going to be a little bit different. So first, I'm going to start on the clip mode. Now, right from the gate on the clip mode, we have pretty much everything enabled. We have a drive, comp, the out low and the out high and everything else. So of course, we're going to talk about the drive and the comp and everything else. But first, we need to talk about the out high and the out low because it works a little bit different than the fixed one. So the out high and the out low, now they work as a threshold. So maybe I'm going to say around 85 or 80 right here. And I'm going to go on the out low to something about like 40s or 50 something. And notice that when we move this is going to give you a representation of what it's going to happen. Now, this is the low part, and this is going to be the high part. So if I go all the way up, and we can clearly see that this is 1 or 0, in this case 0 on the velocity, and this is going to be 127. So again, this works as a threshold. So let me just put these values first. So okay, so on the out high, now how it's going to work is going to be if all the notes that we are playing right here, everything that we have on the MIDI, all the notes, let me just go back, are above 88 they are going to be turned down to 88. This is how it works when we go over this threshold. Now, on the other side, if the notes are below 50, they are going to be turned up to 50. And this is how it works on these values. Now, I'm going to be doing just that. Remember, it's going to be 88 and then 50. So, okay, so I'm going to go right here. And on these, I'm going to go in draw mode. And on this ones are going to go above the threshold. And on the other ones are going to go below the threshold. So if I go back, remember we are going above and then below. So if I play this and record whatever we get, we are going to be able to see what this is doing. So remember, it's going to be 88 and then 50. So now, since this notes, the first part, they're going above the threshold, they're going to be turned down to 88. And we can see right there at the bottom that all these notes, they have 88. And the other ones that were 1, now they have 50. And you can assume that now what we do on this ones, we are just adjusting all the lows and all the highs. Yeah, but it's not really how this works. Now, what happens if the original notes, these ones, they are not above the threshold. Let's say that they are on 85 or on 82 or something like that. So I'm going to adjust this to 96 or 95, 90 something, and I'm going to go back. Let me just go back to this one. Now, I'm going to go right there, And we know that there's threshold, it's 93. So I'm going to go there and I'm just going to bring the paint. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to go below the threshold. So they are going to be around the 80s and something else. And notice that they are not consistent because I'm using the pen tool. And the other ones are going to be 50. Maybe I'm going to rise this a little bit, 54, something like that. So instead of going maybe a little bit lower, 38. So if these ones are above the threshold, what is going to happen? So remember, it's 38. I'm going to go back and I'm going to maybe put them on the 40s. So they are going above the threshold. So now what do you think is going to happen? Is going to adjust all the lower ones to 38 and the higher ones to 93? Well, let's see. So I'm going to record this. So if I go to the recorded clip, we can see that the same thing is not happening. It's not adjusting to whatever value we are selecting right here. It works a little bit different. So if we are below the threshold, what it will do, it will just go up on these values just a tiny little bit. So we still keep the inconsistency with the velocity, but they're going up. And we can see this more, obviously, remember this one is the 38 and on this one is happening the same thing. We are just not going lower to 38. We keep on the 50s. So if I adjust this and go to 127, remember the values right here are around 73, maybe 70 something. So yeah, we are on the 70s, something like that. Now, if we go all the way up, this means that all those values, they will be turned up, but they will not go to 127. So I'm going to be recording this. We can hear that they are louder. And now if I go back, notice that they are not going all the way up, but it's going a little bit up. Now they are on the 95. So now we are just not doing the same thing with the fixed. We are just going up by a little bit if they fall below the threshold, and the same thing with the low. I'm going to go all the way down and all the way high on this one, and I'm going to go back maybe right here and bring the pen. And I'm going to do something like this. We're going to talk about and move on to the next thing. Now, right here, you have something that's called operation. I'm not going to deep dive to this, but right now it says both because you have two things, the velocity, which is how hard you hit the keys when you play them. And you have the release velocity, which is going to be the velocity of when you release the keys. So right now, when you work on both, this one will control both. Right now, we are just working with one, which is going to be the normal velocity when you play the keys, but you can target just that velocity or target the other one, or maybe target both. That's just, what it does. Now, then we have other options like the drive and the comp. And for this, again, 0 and 127. So the drive, first we're going to talk about the drive. Now, as soon as we hear this, we immediately think about saturation. And this is not going to give you saturation because remember, this is just a MIDI device. It works with MIDI. So you will not get saturation. It doesn't work on an audio rate. But it works a little bit like a drive or overdrive in terms of values. And this chart right here, the viewer, gives you a representation of what happens if you go up or you go down. So if I go up, we get this curve. And if I go down, we get this curve. Now, if you think about saturation or, overdriving something, what you do when you overdrive and you saturate all the lower sound, the floor noise, it's going to be brought up. So you're essentially like compressing. You still keep your higher peaks, but all the lower sound is going to be brought up. So this is what's going to happen with the drive. And this gives you that representation. Remember, this is the higher values and these are the lower values. And this one are the ones in between. So as soon as I keep going up in drive, everything that it's really low right here is going to be turned up. So that's what it's pretty much happening. So if we have some low values, they're going to be turned up right here at the top. Now, if we go the other way, it's going to do the opposite thing. All the values are in between. We're going to be lowering them down. So let's see how this works in practice. I'm going to just double click and go back to the default. And I'm just going to give you a very simple example. Let's say I want to go around 100, 100-ish. And the other ones are going to be around 20 something, really, really down. Right. So we have something like this. The first ones are going to be accents and the rest are going to be very low in velocity on each var. Now, if I play this, we can really hear the accent and not everything else. Now, I'm going to go to the drive and I'm going to be looping this and playing this again. Remember, this works like a drive. Everything that is super low is going to be brought up. And everything that it's high is going to still go high, but not that much. So as soon as I go to drive, the higher velocity notes, we can really hear them because they go up, but they go up by a tiny little bit. But we can hear a lot more of the low ones. Fine. So let me just show you. Again, this is what we have right here. So I'm going to go to the drive and I'm going to go up by a lot so we can really see what's going on. And I'm going to punch this in. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to record it. Okay. So this is what we had and this is what we have right now. Now notice that the higher notes, they are going up because we are going up in drive. So they will go up, but they go up by a tiny little bit. They don't go up crazy, right? But the lower ones, the ones that are really low, they are going up by a lot. And we can see it right here. So this is what the drive is going to do. It's like compressing. So I'm going to go back and just modify this because it's going to be a little bit obvious. So we have some notes that are way up, and maybe I can just go all the way up on this one's, the velocity of this and this and this. And then we have something that's going to be right about here. Right, so this is what we have right now. We have some higher notes, and then we have some lower velocity notes. We can really hear the difference. Right, so pretty simple. Let me just go down in volume just a little bit. Now we are doing drive, and that's why we get that. But if I play now, we can really hear the accents, but it's not like the other thing that we had before. The other notes, these notes are not really low in velocity. So if I go to the drive and loop this and do the opposite, we're going to get the opposite. The lower notes are going to go lower, and the higher notes, which are the accents, we can hear them very clearly. So this is creating the opposite effect. I'm going to remove the loop and record this. Right. So I'm going to go there, and notice the higher notes are really high. And the other ones that were about right here are going really down. So right now we are going really aggressively on all of this. So we can just a tiny bit and, just create a little bit of separation. We don't need to go that crazy. You just need to do a little bit. Right. So for now, I'm just going to go all the way to 127, and we are going to go back to this one in a minute. We need to talk about the comp. So the comp works a little bit like the drive, but works a little bit different. The idea is the same because we are still compressing. So the comp is going to work like a compressor or expander. Now, if you don't know the difference, the compressor is going to compress, so we bring things closer, and the expander is just going to create more dynamic range. It's just going to separate them. Right, so let's just try to build an example and just use it. I'm going to go around here, and we're going to use the same example than before. I want some accents. I'm going to put them around here, and everything else is going to be a little bit lower, maybe around here. Okay, so this is what I have. I'm going to play it. We can really hear the accents. That's fine. So now what we want to do, we want to use the compress. So going to the left, it's going to compress, and going to the right is going to expand. And the chart right there is just very it's just pretty much telling you what it's doing. Remember, this is the higher values and lower values. If you go to this way, notice that right here everything is super wide. So all the notes are right there in the middle. So we are just bringing everything closer. And on the other one, we are just doing the opposite. If we are at the middle, they're going to go all the way up or all the way down. So we are separating them. We are creating separation. So, okay, first I want to compress, right? I'm going to stay right here. Remember that this is what we have. I'm going to loop this and I'm going to play it. And I'm going to compress. I want to bring the notes closer. And at some point, we just cannot hear a difference between the accents and the non-accents. If I record this, I go there and record. Right, so if I go right there, we can see that everything gets super close. So we are compressing, just bringing everything closer. So yeah, this is what this will do. Now, what happens if we go to the other side? I'm going to just do this. I'm going to loop and play it and go back. I'm going to expand. Now, the accents are super clear and the non-accents are lower. Now, if I go down in volume and record this, all right, let's record it. There you go. And if I double check this, notice how different the other notes, the non-accents are going way low and the other ones are going really high. So this is what the comp is going to do. We are going to create more separation or less separation. Now, all of this that we've been using, we can use them all at once. So if I play this and we are looping right now, we have this in terms of velocity. So we can go right there, just make them closer. But at the same time, I want to go up in drive and I want to modify the low so we can bring them even more close. And I'm going to go down on the highs. So you can use all of this to shape the velocity. It's not a, one thing knob, a one knob device, let's say. All right. So I'm going to go back to the defaults because we still need to cover a couple things. So we need to talk about the range and the lowest. Now this works on all the modes, but it's especially useful when we talk about the gate. Now the gate, what we'll do, it will just remove notes pretty much. So let me go right here and just create an example for you. Right here, let's say that we are on the 50s. So right here is the 60s. So we are below 60s on all these notes. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, okay, so I'm using the gate mode. Now, everything that is below 60, I just don't want to use it. And we know that all the non-accents are below 60. Okay, so I'm going to go there and I'm going to say the lowest is going to be 60. There we go, 60. Now, notice that when you remove this, right here, this one, instead of moving up like this and down by this, is moving sidewise. So it means that everything that is right here at the bottom will be chopped in the gate mode. So now if I play this, can you hear the non-accents? I can even go and introduce drive so we can hear them. And it's because they are not there. I'm going to remove this and just record. Yeah. So the gate mode, if the notes, they are below the threshold, which is in this case the lowest, they are not going to be played. It's going to just remove them. So now we are not talking about modifying velocity. We are talking about removing notes. So I'm going to bring a fresh instance of velocity. And right here, I'm going to do the same thing on the lowest because we can use the lowest on the gate, but we can't use it on the other ones. So let's do the same thing. If I go right here, we know that some notes are below 60s. All right, so I'm going to bring the lowest. Now take a look at the chart, how it's moving. We still are doing the same thing with the gate, but now we still have the yellow line. This is not being chopped. It's not chopping notes. So what this is going to do, if the notes, the velocity notes, are below the threshold of 60, instead of not playing them like we do with the gate mode, they are going to be turned down to 0. And if I play this, we can still hear something of this. So I'm going to be recording this. All right, so if I go right here, notice that we get it. So this is what we get at the end. All of these notes are going to be going down to 0, and we keep the other ones untouched pretty much. So this range still plays a part. Let me just go back right here. Remember, these ones are going to be 90s, the accents, and the other ones are going to be 50s. So if we make the range shorter, it means that everything is going to be turned up in a way. So everything that is above the threshold is going to be all the way 27. So if we have some notes below, let me say 80s, for example, everything that is above this is going to go to 127. And everything that is below is going to be turned up just a little bit because we are just making the range, higher. So let me just adjust this to 80s. So remember on this ones, we are doing 90 something, something like that. So they will be above the threshold. All of these notes are going to go way up to 120, 127, and the ones below are going to go up by a little bit. So if I play this, You can really hear it, right? And if I record, we can see that the accents are all the way up to 127 and the other ones are going up by a bit. So, yeah, that's the main, but, by a lot, but, they are going up. And all the other ones are going up by 127. So that's the main difference. So all of these tools that you have available, you just need to shift them around and move them and just, adjust your velocity. Now then we have one more thing, and this one it's going to be super simple. It's going to be the random. And as you might think, the random is going to be just random. So right here when we go to random, as we go up, we have a representation that this is going to go up by something or down by something. So if you have this, which is whatever you have right here in terms of velocity, because we are not really changing this, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. And I'm going to be really aggressive. Maybe I'm going to be doing, I'm going to go all the way up. So I'm going to be playing this. Now the velocity just going to be really different. Now let me just loop this. So yeah, we get just random. Now if I go and record, right? So this is what we get. We really get random. Now sometimes maybe this is just not what you want because it's going really crazy on the velocity. So remember, you are going really crazy right here. You're just getting all the way down and maybe do just a little bit, and it's going to do random of whatever you have right here. It's just going to randomize it just a tiny little bit. Or maybe if you wanted to, you can go to fixed and say that all the nodes are going to be around 60 something, 70 something, or maybe something like that. And then you're going to do randomize by a lot, or you're going to just randomize by a little bit. So everything is going to be a little bit more consistent in terms of velocity. Still going to be random, but it's going to be a little bit more consistent. So if I check this, notice it's still random, but everything is super close. All right, so we just covered pretty much every single knob and every single function. So if you liked all of this and you learned something new, remember to like and to subscribe. And if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee just to say thanks, you can. Go to the links in the description. You can do YouTube thanks. You have PayPal. And if you want to be a 1-month patron and just buy me a coffee with that, you can. Go to the links in the description. All right, so see you on the next one.